Well, what a week at Whitehall. Prime Minister's questions being Prime Minister's questions. The YouTube channel Joe creating yet another mashup. Blackmail allegations. And even a Member of Parliament crossing the aisle. This is the week in Whitehall. This is Trainbasher Talks Politics.
Nobody told me there was a party. It looked like a party with cheese and wine and stuff you'll find at a party. It was confidential. Now it has the potential to bring me down.
Nobody Told Me by Politics Joe, Boris Johnson and the Killers. This week in Whitehall has pondered many questions. The biggest question, in fact, is one thing. How many letters are in Sir Graham Brady's postbag? No, don't put that song on. Whatever you do, don't put it on. You're not going to put it on? Okay, thanks, producer Joe. Yeah. So, how many Tory no confidence letters are in? Only Sir Graham Brady knows, but speculation is still swirling. It's swirling that much that some members of the Conservative Party have come forward to the media saying that the whips for the government have been threatening them with blackmail and funding withdrawals for their constituencies if they support a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister by voting to Sir Graham Brady.
In recent days, a number of members of Parliament have faced pressures and intimidation from members of the government because of their declared or assumed desire for a vote of confidence in the party leadership of the Prime Minister. It is, of course, the duty of the Government Whip's office to secure the government's business in the House of Commons. However, it is not their function to breach the ministerial code in threatening to withdraw investments from members of Parliament's constituencies which are funded from the public purse. Additionally, reports to me and others of members of staff at number 10 Downing Street, special advisers, government ministers and others encouraging the publication of stories in the press seeking to embarrass those who they suspect of lacking confidence in the Prime Minister is similarly unacceptable. The intimidation of a Member of Parliament is a serious matter. Moreover, the reports of which I am aware would seem to constitute blackmail. As such, it would be my general advice to colleagues to report these matters to the Speaker of the House of Commons and the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, and they're also welcome to contact me at any time.
In an interview this week with the Mirror, the Prime Minister has denied any allegations of there being a blackmail culture within the Conservative Party.
Prime Minister William Ragg has made some pretty serious allegations this morning. He suggested that colleagues were intimidated, that they were threatened to have money withdrawn from their constituencies. He says it's blackmail and that they should report it to the police. And he's also talked about officials briefing embarrassing stories to the press. I've spoken to MPs who recognise some of that. Are those tactics being used to try to stop MPs speaking out against you?
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations. Anushka, and what I'm focused on is what we're doing to deal with the number one priority of the British people, which is coming through COVID.
I mean, I'm telling you that I'm hearing evidence from MPs. Will you look for that evidence?
Of course, but what we're focused on is what we can do to clear the COVID backlogs, and I just must stress how vital that is.
Obviously, we don't know whether there is a culture of blackmail in the Conservative Party. But on to Prime Minister's questions. And this week was on fine form again, with Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, welcoming a new MP to the Labour fold, having crossed the aisle.
Start by warmly welcoming the Honourable Member for Bury South to his new place in the House and to the Parliamentary Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, like so many people up and down the country, he has concluded that the Prime Minister and the Conservative Party have shown themselves incapable of offering the leadership and government this country deserves, whereas the Labour Party stands ready to provide an alternative government that the country can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party has changed, and so has the Conservative Party. He and anyone else who wants to build a new Britain built on decency, security, prosperity and respect is welcome in my Labour Party.
At this time, the Conservative benches started acting up, led of course by their colleagues on the front benches. And the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, slaps them back down. They get up, they get down again. They're never going to get beaten. And if I'm honest, I do think this is true what Sir Keir Starmer has said.
I've been elected the chair. I don't need to be told how to conduct the business. So if somebody wants to do some direction, I'll start directing them out of the chamber. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, I see the very noise. I'm sure the Chief Whip has told them to bring their own booze.
Order. Let's try and get on with questions. It's going to be a long day if not. Keir Starmer.
Maybe they did bring their own booze, but then again, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't realise it was a party. But then again, there was no party in Parliament. Maybe it was a work meeting. But maybe, in fact, it was a party and I never attended. But nobody warned me it was against the rules, though. And did the co-op make a profit on the Strand from this deal of you bring your own bottle? And did Jacob Rees-Mogg bring his booze in a suitcase? We'll never know. Obviously, Parliament can be really loud and silly, but Partygate still rolls on, with the Prime Minister relying on the Sir Graham report into the investigation of the parties and whether there was a party or work meeting, or a chat amongst colleagues, or party, or work meeting. But here's the Prime Minister's answers to Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, he talks about the rules, and let me repeat what I said to the honourable lady across the aisle earlier on. Of course, Mr. Speaker, we must wait for the outcome of the inquiry. But I renew what I've said, Mr. Speaker. But when it comes to his view,
Nobody believes what you say. Can we have a little less? I want to this Prime Minister like I wanted to leader of the opposition. I want the same courtesy from both sides. Prime Minister.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Speaker, if we'd listened to the right honourable gentleman about COVID restrictions, which is the substance of his question, then, Mr. Speaker, we would have been in lockdown after July.
That nobody believes what she said, Bob, was perfectly accurate in my opinion. Although it was on parliamentary language, and the member who said it should be thoroughly chastised by the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. Sir Keir Starmer is not the only one who seems to be having problems with the Prime Minister's contempt of Parliament, as Ian Blackford, the Scottish Nationalist Westminster leader, takes significant umbrage at the Prime Minister's actions whilst he questions the member for Uxbridge and South Ruislip.
The SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week was supposed to be Operation Save Big Dog, but it's quickly become Operation Dog's Dinner. Over the past few days, we've had more damaging revelations about Downing Street rule-making, more evidence that Parliament has been misled, and an even longer list of ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous excuses from the Prime Minister. First he claimed there were no parties, then he wasn't present, then he admitted he was at them, but he didn't know it was a party. And then, Mr. Speaker, the latest sorry excuse is really the most pathetic of them all. Nobody told me. Nobody told me. Nobody told the Prime Minister he was breaking his own rules. Absolutely pathetic. The Prime Minister, you know, what a look. The Prime Minister laughing once again, laughing at the British public. The Prime Minister is taking the public for fools. Nobody believes him. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility? Resign. Go, Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, but I thank him for his question again, and let me just remind him that there's an inquiry that is due to conclude. I believe he is wrong in what he asserts, Mr. Speaker, but we'll have to wait and see what the inquiry says. But, Mr. Speaker, I think the most important thing from the point of view of the UK government is that we're coming out of the restrictions that we've been in. I'm delighted to see that that's happening in Scotland as well, and that is very largely thanks to the wonderful cooperation that we continue to see across the whole of the UK, though you wouldn't believe it to hear it from him.
Here, Blackburn.
Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid nobody is buying this act anymore. There ought to be some respect and dignity from the Prime Minister. Let's remind ourselves, more than 150,000 of our citizens have died, and he's partying, he's laughing.
The Prime Minister was laughing and partying and drinking and dancing whilst 150,000 people, 150,000 people have died of COVID-19. To be fair though, he did escape the air of his own party. Members of his own party have called for the Prime Minister's resignation at PMQs, including David Davis, the former Minister for Europe, who decided to quote World War II era quotes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many on these benches, I spent weeks and months defending the Prime Minister against often angry constituents. I've reminded them of his success in delivering Brexit and on the vaccine and many other things. But I expect my leaders to shoulder the responsibility for the actions they take. Yesterday, he did the opposite of that. So I'll remind him of a quotation altogether too familiar to him of Leo Amery to Neville Chamberlain. You have sat there too long for all the good you have done. In the name of God, go.
Order. Prime Minister.
I must say to the right honourable gentleman, I don't know what he's talking about, but what I can tell him, I don't know what quotation he's alluding to that he's referring. But what I can tell him is that I think I've told this House repeatedly throughout this pandemic, I take full responsibility for everything done in this government and throughout the pandemic.
Now, wasn't that quote from Oliver Cromwell to the Rump Parliament? I'm sure my history lessons made me remember of it. Anyhow, one thing you still will get will be the die-hard Boris fans supporting him, including these people who talked to Politics Joe.
Is there anything that would turn you against Boris Johnson that would perhaps change your mind?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think Boris Johnson should resign?
No.
Can you think of a good thing that Boris Johnson has accomplished?
Not really.
David, did you have a Christmas party last year?
No.
No. I'm generally an indoor gamer, so not really much changed for me last year.
It was just you and your wife last year.
It was, yes.
But you must have missed your grandkids and your children.
We did, but they're all close, so
you see them fairly
through windows and everything. So
that must have been quite difficult though, only seeing them through windows.
it was a bit, yes, not like normal hugs and everything, but you know.
What do you make of the Christmas parties that Downing Street seem to have had?
I think it's one rule for them, one rule for us, Sarin.
It's disappointing really what I think of them, like Boris, BJ. I shouldn't say that.
I think they're making so much fuss. Just move on.
Do you not kind of think the outrage is perhaps justified, considering people had quite miserable Christmases and they seem to have been laughing at them almost?
Well, to be honest, it's what you have to make it yourself anyway, quite frankly. We were all in the same boat. You don't know for sure what went on, and I just think a year on now, I just think it's ridiculous raking it all up.
Verdict's still out on that.
Do you think so?
I think so, yeah. I mean, nothing's confirmed, have they, about the party, so...
Are you voting for the first time next week?
I am, yes.
How are you going to vote?
Pen and paper.
I'll probably vote for the Tories, to be honest.
Do you usually vote Tories?
Yeah.
There's kind of been a litany of things that perhaps the Conservatives haven't done very well in government. Is there anything that would turn you off them?
Not really.
Will you be voting in the by-election next week?
Yes, we will be.
Do you mind if I ask who you'll be voting for?
Labour.
Voting Labour? Do you usually vote Labour?
No.
What, so has this been the straw that broke the camel's back?
It has been for us, yeah.
Is there anything that would turn you against Boris Johnson that would perhaps change your mind?
No, I don't think so.
Don't think so?
No.
It's no good, I think, running everybody down and running the government down for making this decision, that decision, when they've never had anything to do like this before. And who else would have done any better?
Do you think Boris Johnson should resign?
No.
No?
No, not at this stage.
What would you think would turn your head if the party was proven to exist?
Well, if it was proven, yes, but again, I don't know who would step in to his shoes, quite honestly, because to be fair, I really don't... I mean, he's had a bad run, I know that, and he's made a lot of gaffes, but I don't think there is anybody that is what I would say is strong enough to rule this country at the moment, to run the country at the moment. There's nobody.
Can you think of a good thing that Boris Johnson has accomplished? Do you think the Conservatives will win next week?
In all honesty, yes, they probably will.
What did you make of the resignation of Allegra Stratton yesterday?
I think she was a scapegoat.
You do?
Yes, I do. I think Boris Johnson, he runs the party, he should go.
Do you think people are angry?
I would say personally no. You can't really, at least here, you can't tell anyone's actually angry, at least they don't actually express it. Maybe disappointed that the people that make the rules don't actually follow said rules themselves. But I think it's the kind of thing you would expect anyway.
You've got quite a low opinion of politicians.
I've never had a high opinion of politicians anyway.
Is there anything any party could do to win your vote?
No, not really.
Now, I'm sure there's a Turkish expression which goes, some people are so stupid that if you spit in their face, they think it's raining. I do think sometimes that applies quite well to a lot of Tory voters who still support the Prime Minister. That's my opinion anyway, others may vary. But still, the biggest question is, how many letters are in Sir Graham Brady's bag? And will Postman Pat deliver any more to him in the coming weeks, with all these retractions happening? The chair of the Backbenchers 1922 committee never comments on speculation, never, about the number of letters, on or off the record. But that does not stop speculation in Westminster. And that is a bigger question than Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Thanks for listening to this week's instalment of Trainbasher Talks. This has been the politics episode. Here's to another week in Parliament, and hopefully the release of a report that covers exactly what happened in these parties. No, not parties. Work meetings. No their party. There was no Warren, Cheese, or Secret Santa at any of these work meetings ever. I'm off for a week meeting. But first, I've got to wait for Postman Pat to see what's in my sack. Bye for now.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat, and his black and white cat. Early in the morning, just as day is dawning, he picks up all the post bags in his van. everybody knows his bright red band. All his friends will smile as he waves to greet them. Maybe you can never be sure there'll be knock, ring, letters through your door.